What's up, guys? I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
And this is the Meaning of Podcast, a podcast where we talk about your favorite film directors and the deeper meaning within their films. In RB3, we're doing a different episode, talking about that GOAT show, Succession in
baby.
honor of its finale.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that? What is this?
That's the iconic theme song.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fire. That's fire. I think, honestly, the best theme song on TV right now, for sure. Best theme song.
It kind of, and I know this is going to be weird. I'm starting weird right off the bat, but that's what we do on the Meaning of.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of that little, the do-do-do-do-do-do. It sounds a little bit like Coolio's Gangster Paradise. You don't see
that's
that?
good.
You don't
That's
hear
a
that?
good comparison.
With the violins?
A little bit.
Right?
You mentioned that. You know, I'm actually working on the show with Coolio right now.
No way.
No bullshit. I met Coolio and everything.
How old is that guy now? He's got to be up there, right?
He's
like 40, maybe? I don't know.
NDAs.
NDAs.
This part's probably getting cut out of the episode.
Coolio is cool.
Yeah, Coolio's a good guy, for sure.
He looks at the camera. Coolio is cool.
This
it
podcast is
like
small
it.
enough that nobody's going to pay attention to that. But yeah, that's a good comparison. You know, I sent you the song yesterday.
You did.
Pusha T rapping over it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to lie. I thought Pusha T could have went a little harder on that song, on the beat. I thought, you know, this is Pusha T we're talking about, one of the best rappers right now. Killed Drake in the beef, but he didn't murder the song like I thought he would. But it did very much resemble the themes. I think it's an official remake, official remix, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, they might have been released by HBO and all that and promoted.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it with Game of Thrones, so
they had a pop song for Game of Thrones.
They had a ton. They had like a whole album.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
With Travis Scott, with like The Weeknd.
Travis
with,
on the
on I think Travis was in it, or was it ASAP? I always confuse them. Wow. I'm sorry.
They're totally different. They're good style. They're similar style wise. Yeah. But music wise,
they're completely different. Vocals, they're so different vocals.
Yeah.
Succession, man, it's the hottest show right now on TV by far. Everyone's talking about it. It has this whole section on Twitter that I'm a part of, Succession Twitter. Shout out to Succession Twitter. It's a fascinating show that I told you about last year for season 1.
Yeah,
because
I have to it right after you told me.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying I told you about it because I was like so obsessed with it because I thought it was the best show last year for sure. Because it deals with so many the complexities of this media conglomerate that is the Roy family, and the Waystar family.
It's a substitute. A lot of people say for Disney.
I'd personally say part Disney, part Fox.
Yeah,
I say it's both, kind of combined.
Yeah, keep it ambiguous.
It keeps it ambiguous, but it has a lot to. It's for a show that's so over the top and bombastic. It's very grounded in the realism of corporate attitude right now in the U.S. Dealing with real life issues that happen to a lot of happen to these big media corporations, whether it's scandals, whether it's meetings with other countries.
It's kind of chasing the headlines to a certain extent. And you know, we just re-released an episode on Adam McKay on the First Cut YouTube channel. So all of our podcast listeners, go to First Cut. You can revisit our Adam McKay episode 66. We talked a lot about Adam McKay and how he's a very democratic, very left-leaning filmmaker. And you could definitely see that in representation of these ultra conglomerates. You show that at least a lot of media or a lot of shows and a lot of filmmakers would portray like these rich people with morals or integrity. The show has no morals. None of these characters have any integrity. They're all horrible people. And but it makes for interesting TV and interesting drama because they're all so incredibly flawed. And that's what makes the big, you know, is at the big stakes of it are like the company drama and the selling and the corporate espionage, but the real heart of it is the family relationship. And I think that's what the show nails down really well. One thing I also want to say about Succession, and this comes directly from the Adam McKay influence as well, is the camera work. A lot of people think it's very controversial. A lot of people don't like it. You know, a lot of people. My good friend Riley Chapman, I mentioned him before on this podcast. He hated the first episode because there was like a shot that just kept zooming in on like Roy taking or Logan taking a sip of whiskey or whatever. He just hated the camera work. What the camera work really does in this show that I think is really impactful. And salute to Wisecrack and the Medium because they made this point on their websites. Is that a lot of times when you think about movies and cinema that represents the rich and the wealthy. It presents access. It presents like in the most glamorous, spectacular way. Most recent example, like Wolf of Wall Street, right? Like it just shows the power of money and like the low camera shots. It shows the power of it. You know what I mean? It's very dynamic. It's very beautifully presented. This show is a very rough camera style, very zoom in, zoom out, very impactful, very documentary in style to give it that gritty feel of like realism. So it kind of despeculizes the money to some extent and kind of makes it as close to a raw thing as possible with the camera work. So,
yeah,
or more natural, over the top, bombastic thing.
The show, 100%, and it really has reached a different level with season 2 as far as everything is trying to say and communicate with each episode, because I listened to the Succession after show on The Ringer. Shout out to Chris Ryan.
Right.
And they do a really good job. Oh, and Jason Concepcion. Shout out to him too.
Also, if we're shouting out Succession after shows, salute to Ryan Nielsen. He hosts the AfterBuzz Succession after show.
Oh, cool.
And I actually wanted to get him on the podcast today, but he's unavailable.
Great.
He's doing Guilty Movie Pleasures. He's the head of like AfterBuzz.
Oh, cool.
But he's a good buddy of mine, and he has a great Succession
That's
after
cool.
show. Great Succession after show.
That's awesome. Yeah. I shout out to any of those because what they do a good job of talking about, like, in each episode, especially in season 2, they show you like a rich moment where they're showing off their wealth, and it's done in such a FU offensive kind of way that it really kind of pulls you back to reality, that what you're watching, as great as these stakes are between Roman and Kendall and Tom and Shiv and all these people fighting for whatever they're fighting for, whatever side you as an audience member are kind of rooting for, it all becomes irrelevant when you see a scene, for example, when they go to that family dinner and you see like Logan got mad and he's like, throw all the food out, and they're throwing all the food out, and it kind of hits you like, oh no, these people are evil.
Right.
Like how can you throw millions and millions and millions dollars of food in the trash, just in spite, like stuff like that.
Exactly.
They show you moments of like pure how money can corrupt your soul so much that you view money and people as
commodities,
as
just
objects,
nothing,
as dirt beneath your feet.
And they show that in the very first episode of the show. And the pilot of the show is not necessarily the greatest pilot.
It's not. To be honest, if I'm being real honest, the pilot, I had to watch the pilot twice.
I had to watch the pilot twice too.
Because I just did not care for the pilot. I was like, I don't care. This guy's peeing in a corner. And I was like, I don't give a crap about this old man.
Right. But the one thing that the pilot showed that I was always interested in was the family, the little, I think they're Latino family that works for the, when they went out, they took helicopters out to play baseball.
And they pay him off?
Yeah. And they literally was like, if you hit this ball, you'll get $1 million. Literally toying their wealth in the face of a child, torturing that child to having this like moment, and it's just so heartbreaking because, and really that's what really attracted me to the show, because they go out of their way to show these characters. They have no sense of what anything below them actually is worth. I think even the question comes up at some time in the show, like if somebody could tell me how much a gallon of milk costs or whatever, and nobody has an answer for them, that just shows you how detached they are from reality. And it's kind of brilliant to some extent. I think it does a good job of showing you how over the top these characters are, how overly ridiculously rich they are. But at the end of the day, they're still facing the same human problems that we are, except to much more extreme levels, So,
and like you said, every character. I don't think I've watched the show. I told you a couple weeks ago where every main character is a piece of shit. Like they're all despicable in their own way.
Yeah.
Like even the characters, especially this season, that in season 1 seemed like, oh, they're kind of okay, and then in season 2 you're like, oh my god,
I always thought they were terrible.
You always thought they were.
I always thought they were terrible.
I didn't. I was
from
like
the minute one. See, that's why I like that. I like that scene at the end, because I was like, oh, I have no attachment to any of these characters.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what as much as we talk about morally despicable characters, and like when we talk about comic movies and villains, we had a whole discussion about Joker last week. What really I think resonates with people in today's climate is really talking about like class issues, right? I mean, that's kind of at the tip of everybody's tongue, like politically, socially, entertainment wise. Like I can mention Get Out, Ready or Not, I don't want to spoil Parasite.
Don't spoil it.
But a lot of movies these days are addressing issues of class in a very specific way, and I think that goes to reflect in Succession in and of itself, right? Like like they show. I think the reason why that show is so popular is because it demytholizes the rich. It shows you how garbage these people are, how they're just as garbage as not as broke people, as poor people, but their level of garbage is like to an extreme. I mean, we get Connor running for president on the basis of like no taxes. That's just hilarious. You know what I mean? We have Shiv, who is the most manipulative wife of all time to Tom. And we have Tom, who takes his anger and his frustrations and implodes them on all of his employees.
To show him, almost to like declare himself like, exactly. To compensate for like all the shit he gets when he's hanging out with the Roy family, because he gets the most shit, especially from Roman.
Right.
But everyone gives Tom shit because they're like, shut up, Tom. Even Logan in the episode 3 hunting episode, which I definitely want to get into specifics about that episode, because there's that episode has so many metaphors and layers and everything it's trying to say.
Born to Four.
Born to Four. That episode, where Logan says, shut up, Tom. I don't want to hear anything from you. All I want from you is to tell me when my grandkids come, and that's it. and that's like, and Tom was like, oh my God, like this guy's a monster.
And he still, and then did he realize then? Like,
exactly. And then he literally, the next episode, has his feet on someone. And see how long they can hold it there, because he's, like you said, overcompensating for being demasculinized in those moments, and his masculinity is so on the floor that he has to take it out on his lesser employees. Because he's the executive of the Fox News company that he works for, or ATN.
Very pointed commentary towards Fox News.
It's clearly Fox News. So let's talk a little bit about how this show kind of takes real life companies and real life events and real life news networks and even people like the Bernie Sanders. Like, I literally laughed out loud in season 1 when that guy came on the screen, because I was like, he was like, hey guys, I'm here. Hey,
we're gonna take down the billionaires.
We're gonna take them down. And I was like, okay, this guy is clearly going hard as play. We get it. You're playing Bernie Sanders.
But you know what? And that's funny, because you really think about it. Bernie, if you had a show about billionaires, your number one enemy probably would be Bernie. I mean, you see Jeff Bezos just slander Bernie in the press.
You got Mark Zuckerberg talking shit about Warren too.
Well, I mean, everybody should. Everybody needs to pile on Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, come on, this guy is destroying lives, and destroying our privacy. But I think what's most fascinating about the way the show depicts the politicians, how they just so easily, they're just like, we'll just buy him off. And then the fact that Siobhan actually works under like the Bernie Sanders character as like her campaign advisor, and she's generally seen as the only one in the family who's left-leaning, but she, just based on her family values, she cares way more about the dollar, way more about owning the company than she does anything political.
Not even that. The fact that in real life, if you really think about it, RB3, she only does it to spite her dad. Almost like an FU to dad.
Like working with the enemy.
That's the only reason why she even does that in the first place in season 1. She only does it to be like, hey, Dad, I'm doing this on my own, and I'm doing it with your enemy. Ha, 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 ha. Like, this whole family it is wanting to spite one another, almost for like a gain of respect for their father. Kendall does it all throughout season 1, where he thinks he's getting respect, taking the company from right under his father. Roman does it too, but then he backs down.
He tries to take the company under, and then he tried to sell the company, or try to have somebody buy out the company.
But everything is done to somehow prove themselves to dad, or spite the dad in some weird a sign of affection. Like, this is how they show love. Like by taking over companies, or by hanging out with their enemies. Like, and that's their sign of either disrespect or affection, or I'm in a feud with my father right now.
And we saw the ultimate version of that in the last scene of season 2.
Let's do it, man. Let's get into the finale of season 2. If you have not watched the finale of season 2, unfortunately, this is the time for you to slowly back away and be like, you know what? I got to watch the show.
We're going to be spoiling one of the best moments of television. Yeah, we did pitch the show. That was a good overall review of the show we just did.
I think so.
But after this point, don't watch, because this is, I think, to me, one of the best moments of TV I've seen in a long time.
So before we get to that scene, that moment, we have to talk about how season 1 ended. Season 1 ended in the worst way ever for someone like a Kendall, right? Where he's just about to take over the company, and he's going to do it with his homie Stewie, who's just like, Stewie's the perfect example of like what a billionaire looks like now. Who is Stewie? If you ask me or ask someone who's a fan of Succession, like, who's Stewie? a crazy billionaire guy. He's just a crazy billionaire guy who just knows about money.
Right.
And that's why he's constantly doing crack. He's crazy. He's rude. He's over the top. But he's just about to take over the company.
Right.
And then this accident happens with this kid who's a server for the big wedding that's going on between Shiv and Tom.
Yeah.
And then he dies in a river accident. It's an accident. At the end of the day, they were both high on crack, but they're still in an accident.
Cocaine, not crack.
Okay.
There's
okay.
a difference.
And they go in the river, and Kendall pops out, but he cannot physically and otherwise save the kid.
Yeah.
No matter what, like he can't save the kid if the car is underwater.
So he should have got his ID though. That's number one.
True. But either way, he walks away from that, and he almost feels like he walks away like that's it, bro. Like he's dead. But oh well. I survived. Like even Kendall is like, you're like, man, this guy sucks because he just.
I wouldn't go that far. I think he feels bad.
He feels bad. Of course, he feels bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a scene right afterwards where he's like drinking. And he's like, like, yes, I made it. Like I survived. Like, oh my god, good deal.
He's a selfish
survived.
dude.
Like he's still kind of selfish.
That's his one character flaw. He's the most selfish
and then
character.
the season 1 ends with his father holding that over him as like, if you don't bow down to me and back out of this deal and submit to me as almost like a servant, almost like, and I know you're not going to get this reference, and I got to give credit to the writer from The Ringer, I believe her name is Allison, who said it's almost like this relationship between Ramsay and Reek from Game of Thrones. And I know that's a reference you don't get.
I don't get it, but yeah.
But there's a character who's the son of like this declared king, whose name is Theon Greyjoy, and he attempts to do something against another king, and he loses. And instead of being, thrown in jail and all this stuff, he gets sent to like this torture master. His name is Ramsay. Right. And what he does is he doesn't just break down your body, he breaks down your soul and basically turns him into a dog, because this torture master is obsessed with dogs. He has like dozens and dozens of dogs, and he lives with dogs, and he calls them my hounds, and he like hangs out with them, and he's obsessed with like their loyalty. And he's like, I'm going to make you into a dog. And he breaks down this guy who thought he was this badass prince into a dog. And it's just straight up like he's just always head down, looks down, and he says, go dad, do that for me, do this for me. And he's just, because of all the torture he does him, psychological torture. That is what Logan Roy does to Kendall. Psychologically tortures Kendall.
Destroys him.
All throughout season 2.
Yeah.
But it starts with that scene where he holds the death of a kid over him. Right. And dude, season 2 is all about how Logan Roy shows how evil he truly is and how little he cares about his own flesh and blood.
Yeah, son.
Because not only does he hold that over Kendall, he makes him visit the family. He makes him like look at what you did. Look at this. Look at the family.
He didn't even need to go.
He didn't even need to go. He makes him go on TV and do a press conference, tell him about how right dad was. Like Logan Roy made it a point to say, you're my B word, and I want you to know that you're my B word.
For sure.
Like, you're beneath my foot, and anything you say, you killed a kid, bro. You killed a kid, man. Yeah. Like, he's doing that to his own son. Right. So much to the point that the season finale finally ends with him being like, you know what? Yeah, I killed a kid, but you know what? You're the fucking devil.
Yeah.
and it's over, man. Like, I am not gonna let you make me the scapegoat for the hell that you created in this company, which is obviously the cruise line controversy, which we'll get into. And the season ends with what I was screaming at the TV, RB3. I watched this by myself on a Sunday night, but I was screaming at the TV. And I was like, come on, Kendall. Come on, Kendall. Come on, boy.
Oh, you wanted him to flip.
I wanted him.
I didn't see it coming.
Oh, I saw it. I saw it coming so close. But one of the giveaways is the kiss. The kiss on the cheek. I was like, oh, it's Judas. It literally pulls a Judas.
That's good.
Where he kisses his father on the cheek right before he says, okay, Dad. And he kisses, and he's never kissed his dad ever in the show. And he kisses his dad on the cheek. And I was like, oh, we're getting a Judas moment. I love it. Like, please let it be so. Yeah. And sure enough, bro, he gets on that press conference and he's like, hey, guys. And he rips up the paper and walks away. And it's over, man.
And, there's one brilliant shot. I talk a lot about shots, right?
Yeah.
One brilliant shot, low-angle shot as he's entering into the press conference. And the camera's, like, panning up, and then it kind of flips around, like, as he's about to sit down at the table. And I thought right there, I was like, that's a flip. That's a flip. Something's going to happen right here.
Yep.
I do want to say, too, though, is the point to the psychological torture point. Look how many relationships and how many things that Kendall had to give up to please his father throughout season 2.
Yeah.
He gave up on Naomi in the last episode. He flew away. What was the actress?
Yeah. I forget her name, but
I forget, but who was in Connor's play. He literally flew her. He literally told her just to leave because his dad didn't approve. His company that he went all through season 1 trying to buy with the Asian homie, and then literally just cut him off just because my daddy told me.
Yeah,
all the things he gave up and his father, and for his father to tell him straight to his face. And you know what? This show is all about symmetry, right? Perfect symmetry. Well, season 1 ending with him killing that kid, or not killing, but accidentally killing that kid, and to this season when Ken asked Logan, was it ever me? Was it ever going to be me? And Logan says, "You're not a killer. You're not a killer." Last season, he was a killer. He literally killed somebody. Yeah. He murdered someone. And then this season, you're not that. And then to the extent that to Kendall, it's like all bets are off now. Like you're not even, it's all, like you said, the show's all about justifying, like, all the family doing actions to, like, justify their place of power and position in his family. Kendall is never going to have that opportunity, even though he's literally been in his servitude the entire time.
Exactly.
It just breaks him.
Yeah.
And he's not, and then he starts to get that killer mentality. Now he's feeling good with killing that kid and being able to drive away and walk away with it and get away with it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
perfect
writing.
Yeah,
right?
It's perfect writing. And again, another perfect moment of symmetry. I mean, this episode was just so full of good moments. Tom finally standing up to Shiv and being like, one of the saddest lines I think I've ever heard, though. He was like, I think I'm more sad. He said something like, he's more sad. I wonder if I'm less sad without you than I am with you, or something like that. Yeah. One of the saddest lines I've ever seen.
That was a good line.
Yeah. And that's finally a wake-up moment for Shiv, like, of how much of a manipulative, wife she's been to poor Tom. Yeah.
She's horrible. Yeah, and the fact that she never cared about Tom, and the fact that she threw him under the bus the first second she could when they had that meeting, where everyone's like, I think it should be Tom, and his own wife was like, yeah, it should be Tom.
Right.
You're going to throw your own husband in jail?
Right.
And make him seem like he covered up this whole thing, even though he actually did. But still, it's like, what?
Right.
Like, loyalty means nothing to them. Blood means nothing to them. Siblinghood means nothing to them, and father and son means nothing to them. Like, all these relationship about family and about love is zero. It's literally about gaining power, gaining position, and gaining money. That's all it's about. Right. And Logan Roy is willing to sell out his own family, kill them off if he could, if that means he wins. And even the scene, and I'm still talking about the finale, when Logan when Logan Roy says, well, they want it to be me. And everyone's like, no, of course not. And he's like, okay, look at me. I'm so humble. See, I'm willing to sacrifice myself. Right, guys? And they're like, yes, Dad, you're so humble. You're willing to sacrifice yourself. Okay, glad we cleared that up. Now, who should it really be? Just that little moment of like, let me show that I'm kind of humble. See, I'm willing to sacrifice.
I thought he was okay with actually leaving.
No.
I thought he was okay with
it. To me,
so?
This is Logan being so manipulative that he's saying, I'm going to show myself as being somewhat humble. Oh, maybe it should be me. I'm humble. Right. And I know everyone's going to say no anyways. And he even said it. He's like, well, since everyone's against me leaving, I guess. Right. I'm like, bro, no one's against you leaving. They're just afraid of you. Right. But he knows that they're going to say no. And he's immediately like, okay, back to business. Then who should it be? Sure, you. And everyone starts throwing each other under the bus. People, they hang out with these own people. And they throw each other under the bus. That was one of the best.
That was one of the coolest scenes. Just seeing literally everybody tossing everybody under.
Everyone doesn't
everybody
care.
Just redirects their energy.
And I was thinking about this in terms of real life. And I was listening to this political podcast, and they were talking about the impeachment hearings and how it's crazy how literally last week a reporter says, hey, Trump, what do you think about your attorney, Giuliani? And he's like, what? Giuliani, I mean, I don't know. I haven't really talked to the guy. I mean, he was my attorney. I mean, I don't really know. Right. It's just like that, Trump flipped. I mean, it doesn't, if loyalty means nothing. Like, you really think that Trump would be loyal to his own son? Probably not. I guarantee that Trump would sell out his own son if that means
not even Eric?
Nope.
Poor Eric.
Nope.
Poor Eric.
Nope.
Jared Kushner?
But
No.
that's the kind of relationships that these people have. It's all about money. And
Yeah.
I think as great as those lines that Kendall said and Logan said throughout this episode, and even I eat your chicken, like Tom said.
Yeah.
Like there's so many great lines in this season finale.
That's a flip. That's a flip of the I'll drink your milkshake from There Will Be Blood. Did you get that?
Yeah. That's a good line. That's
Yeah.
good. Or Tom's sad line, or everything. I still think Stewie had the best.
Yeah.
Where he's like, none of this shit matters, bro.
Yeah.
It's all about these shareholders thinking if they can make just a little bit more money, then they'll sell you out. And he nailed it with that line. He's like, dude, shut up. It's all about a little bit more money, and that's it. If I can make more money, then I'm willing to sell you out. I'm willing to step on you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes if that means making a little bit more money. That's Stewie's line, and that's all the only scene he has. And I was like, he nailed the whole freaking show. It's all about a little bit more money.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy. I think this episode really showed like all the characters have like an extreme amount of growth. We saw obviously Tom have his coming out moment to some extent.
Yeah.
We see
Greg
flip
a bitch.
Flip with Kendall just to
I've been begging
one
Greg
little
to
shot
do that.
to indicate that too. That was brilliant. And by the way, the finale of season 1,
I know.
very
Greg
tiny
the
Easter
egg.
egg.
Yeah.
Greg's like, I found some evidence, and you just kind of, I brushed it off.
Me too.
And then it comes back to play.
That's
like
crazy.
Then
I really hope this is true, man. I hope it's not some front. That's the only. I had this feeling that I was like, I really hope this isn't some sort of like plan that Logan has.
You go back and think about it. Kendall was the one who bought the kid the apartment. Kendall was the one who like really was the only one who was looking after the kid from the entire time. So now it's kind of all starting to make sense. Also, big changes from Roman. I didn't think Roman was going to own up to his dad and say the money wasn't real. I'm not going to lie. I thought that shit was shady as fuck last episode, too.
I think everyone did.
Yeah. But then the fact that those guys are going to come in is like, we got the money. I was like, what? Really? Like, y'all literally almost lost your lives. Like, it was kind of brilliant seeing that. You know the Roman of past, because he'd been through all the management training and all of that stuff, he kind of understands a lot of, he understands the business a lot better, and he's willing to speak up for his dad. And I think my prediction for next season, Roman's going to be the one that takes it. I think Roman's going to be the one that takes it.
I kind of agree. I think Roman's
because I
think
Shiv, because when Shiv came to Logan and told her not to, when Shiv came to Logan and said, please don't do Tom, please not Tom. I think that in that moment he was like, it's not her anymore.
Yeah.
And I think he even said so at the end of the show. He's like, I think in my days you needed a killer, but maybe not anymore. I think I was almost implying like maybe she's not it, or maybe you don't need a killer. Maybe it is still Shiv. So,
it's interesting because you see Shiv's like true side too. You saw it throughout the whole season. They kind of really deconstructed how manipulating and how evil Shiv can be as well. This whole season, they really did it.
Right.
Like, they showed like, man, Shiv is kind of messed up. Like she's really messed up.
Yeah.
And it ends with you realize that the blood sacrifice that they were referencing in the episode before, in episode 9, that was Shiv telling his own father that Kendall should be the one to go. He should be the one to take it. That was Shiv's low key. They were implying that was Shiv's idea.
Wow.
And it's like, wow, Shiv is the one who thought of Kendall, even after Kendall went crying into her arms.
And
that's at end of episode 5, I believe.
Right. I don't know if it was implied, but I think he told her in that moment about what happened.
Or
on the wedding night.
or maybe, I mean, this is all like now theories, right? Maybe Shiv told Dad to let it be Kendall because Shiv was the one who planned this. She said, I'm going to say, dude, be Kendall. And they planned to have Kendall flip on his own father because they knew he was going to put himself up for it so that Kendall can be the sacrificial lamb of like, F the Logan Roy family. I think Logan Roy should be the one to leave, and I think my sister should be the one to replace him. And then he's kind of this sacrifice, like laying down his life for the new blood to come in, and that's Shiv. And maybe that's her plan, to put Kendall up to it because she knew he was going to flip. Because they planned the whole thing. Maybe. Maybe that's the case. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You notice how the first episode of season 2 starts with the press conference, and that whole press conference, he's just Kendall's just sucking
dying,
up.
Bro.
He's sucking up, but but you can see in his eyes the pain in his eyes that he's feeling just days after that wedding. And now at the end of this, like he almost, I mean, it's credit to the performance. I forget who the guy's name is.
Oh man, Jeremy Strong.
Yeah,
Jeremy Strong.
But man, his performance at the end, I felt like
His
that was the first
performance
time.
the whole season, man.
His performance the whole season, but especially at the end, it felt like that was the first time he felt alive. Like,
That's true.
This character really felt like kind of dead and washed out.
Yeah.
But that was the first time his character was like, all right, finally, I'm in my element. You
Yeah,
know?
and let's take it back. Let's take now that we kind of wrapped up the episode.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back, and we'll get to season 1 eventually. But I kind of want to go back just because we're on track with Kendall, and talk about that, especially that scene, because I feel like that's one of the most defining scenes where his father eventually. It's like this reward punishment system, as if he were a pet or a dog, like I said before, like Reek, where he rewards him for being loyal and gives him that office room.
Right.
And then at the same time, in this weird sense of punishment and showing you who's boss, because the whole show is basically people flexing their money and flexing their power and wealth as a way to show themselves as the boss. And you could see it's one of the most defining moments in this season to me, man, is when Kendall is made to put down the company that he fought for. And it's that Silicon Valley company, that tech company that he loved. And he was so in love with.
He was passionate about it.
Passionate about it.
Yeah.
And they treat companies as if they were like tests to pass for his own father.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the scene from Kingsman.
Yeah.
Where he's like, oh, you love that dog, shoot the dog.
Right.
Shoot the dog. Like, prove your loyalty. Kill the dog to prove that you're loyal to me. Even though this is the dog you raised, you fell in love with, you named.
Yeah.
Like you did. Remember that scene, Kingsman? Where Eggsy and his Eggsy can't do it?
He doesn't actually, the dog, there wasn't a gun there. But
I know, but I'm saying,
for sure.
it's that exact scene.
Yeah.
And instead of Michael Caine, it's Logan Roy, and the dog is that Silicon Valley company.
Right.
And he has to kill all those employees and take away their livelihood and their money, and you don't know what they have to deal with, and destroy this entire company just as a oath of loyalty
to your father.
Yeah. Like, prove you're loyal to me, since you almost tried to betray me last season and kill your favorite company. And he has to fire all those employees and look them in the eyes and have them spit on his face, and because my dad told me to.
Right.
And he's like, really? My dad told you to? Like, that's your reason? He's like, yeah, my dad told me to. And he's so dead inside, and he's so hurt by it, because that was his baby. It's that company. And you realize this show is trying to make this metaphor that the way the Logan Roy and these big conglomerate businesses, these men make decisions and spite each other is through the livelihood of hundreds, if not thousands, of employees and people. They treat them as if they were nothing. Oh, yeah, man, you know what? Just get rid of that section of the subsector. Really? That's 300 employees. Yeah, I don't really care. Just get rid of it. Just do it. Kill it.
And
like Roman. Like the way
worse,
Roman
I was going to
says
say,
it.
Roman just says kills it. And
yeah, Roman's like, oh, kill it.
By the way, something he doesn't...
thousands of employees,
By the way,
man.
something he doesn't even really believe in, because after it's done, he's like, maybe that wasn't the right decision.
Yeah, he knows
But he
it was.
literally only does that to demonstrate to his father who he is.
And sure enough, all those people lost their jobs just in this kind of weird family feud. And it's the same with the Pierces when he's trying to buy the Pierce company, just to spite his brother.
Yeah.
Ewan Roy. Shout out to Ewan Roy.
Right.
The only guy who's there trying to do, the only billionaire who's low-key trying to help.
Right.
And everything is this weird game of flexing and power and proving one another and spiting one another and showing affection to one another, playing with the lives of people.
Right.
Of so many employees and so many people that they happen to control because they're such a large media conglomerate. And that's the defining factor of this entire show, is that these people are truly, the word is strong, but it's true, RB3, and I told you, evil. They're evil.
100%. And I think overall, I think the show really does a good job of portraying how despicable these people are, but how much their actions can actually mean to a lot of different people on different levels, right? I think we saw that with obviously the scene where he fires. I think the character, what's the character's name? With the Asian company, the Asian guy.
I forget. I know it's the Silicon Valley
but
tech company or whatever.
You see the reality of that. You see the reality of a lot of the when he's throwing out the food, like you mentioned earlier, how all the workers and all the people are just kind of looking at it like, what's going on? Like, it just goes to show you, like, to these people, money means nothing. And I think they even, like you said, Stu even says as much. Nothing matters. Like
It's just making more money.
It's just making more money. And yeah, so the morality of the show is really, really, really intense, and it really goes to demonstrate, again, maybe it's the filmmaker's perspective. I think I love Adam McKay, and I love the perspective he brings to this kind of material.
Yeah.
I think, again, if this was any kind of praiser, admirizer of this kind of lifestyle, the show would have been super glorified.
Yeah.
I think people, the similar comparison a lot of people give to the show is Billions on Showtime.
Oh yeah, I've never seen it.
I've
heard about
saw
it.
one episode of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people says that's more of a celebration of the wealth, whereas this show is more of a kind of gritty, like, reinterpretation of it.
And how disgusting it is.
How disgusting, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This obviously, the whole story of like the dynasty stuff kind of comes directly from, the 70s show Dynasty. Empire is a recent one that had a really good first season, but really terrible everything else. Game of Thrones, too, another HBO. But I ultimately think the most fascinating part of this entire series, and maybe I'm wrong here, is seeing Greg's character. Greg's kind of like the POV character, I think,
Greg is
throughout
funny.
this entire show. And
Yeah.
I think, particularly in this season, this Greg is kind of, first season he was bullied a lot. The second season he's kind of standing up for himself a lot more.
Sure.
I think, and I think that goes to show, and he's assimilating to the wealth, right? He's getting adequated to it. Like like you see that moment in the finale where he's walking onto the boat. He's like, oh, you finally know how to spend money now. And he's using in that episode where he has the documents and he's using that as leverage against Tom. He's actually kind of starting to figure out the game and piece it together.
100%.
And I think that's one of the most fascinating parts that I've seen in season 2.
Absolutely.
As well.
Can I talk about, before we go to break?
Yeah.
Because we have to eventually go to break.
Yeah. We just keep talking about the show.
Or should we go to break first?
Whatever. Say.
I want to talk about the hunting episode, Boar on the Floor.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that for sure.
That episode to me is one of the most profound episodes, and a lot of people reference it as like the funniest, which it has funny moments.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I was like, oh my god.
No,
like,
to me, the ending to me was disgusting and awful.
I was like, man, that's really intense.
Because
like,
it's supposed to dehumanize you, right? And that's the idea is that they're hunting boar throughout this entire day.
Right.
I think in the mountains of France or something.
Something exotic, yeah, for sure.
And they're hunting boar. And you think, oh, cool, they're going to go hunting. And in reality, even Tom says it in the episode, it's like the game is rigged, bro. All we do is we put them in a pen and we shoot them as they walk by in their pen. That's how they hunt. And even remember, I don't know if you remember that, where he's like, this isn't hunting.
Right.
This is just rigging the game so we can shoot these pigs, these boars, when they're in a pen and they're running right towards us. And we're shooting them, not in their natural habitat, not as they're running away, not as a hunter would hunt up and walk up to them or look for them.
Right.
We're doing it as they walk towards us in a pen. It's a rigged hunting game.
Right.
And then afterwards, we take a picture, we eat the pig, and we proclaim ourselves as some sort of like conquerors and these some sort of people who have won this war against these pigs, and we're down and gritty and dirty men, and we have blood on our hands because we eat our own food that we killed ourselves, and it's all bullshit.
Right.
It's all rigged, and that's a giant metaphor for the rich itself. How they rig it, and then they make themselves like, man, I work so hard, and that's why I have all this money, and it's because of all the hard work I've done. And they take pictures and they flex with all their companies, and it's all lies. It's all bullshit. It's a rigged system that's rigged for them.
Exactly.
They take it out on the poor. They use them as pawns, and then they look down on them and say, well, come on, guys, pick yourself off your bootstraps and get up, and because we did it, and look at all the money we have, and it's all fake.
Right.
It's all fake. And I thought that episode was so dense with that metaphor, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
They they can't even hunt like men.
Right.
Even
right.
they're bitches with hunting.
And look at
they're fake.
And look at the way they treat their employees who they want to humiliate and exile. They turn them into the boars. They turn them into the people who are being hunted, who they're getting ready to shoot.
Well, that's the thing.
Boar 4. Yeah.
Boar on the Floor turns into this game that Logan likes to play to humiliate his employees into fessing up to crimes, and he knows he can get away with something that's actually illegal. Even Jerry says it in the episode. episode. She's like, this is illegal. This is absolutely illegal. You cannot do this. You can't take our phones and make us play this game and force us to do this and let us not leave because he says you can't leave. This is illegal. And he knows I don't give a fuck if it's illegal because I know you're going to do it anyways because I own you guys. I've taken your souls because your souls are bought and paid for with money. And that's the defining factor is that at the end of the day, you'll do it because of money. And Tom will get on his knees and beg for food, whatever he does, because of money.
Right.
And everyone else humiliates him and laughs at him and dehumanizes him and demasculates him even more because he's willing to do it because that's what he wanted. He wanted that power. And he fought so hard for it. And he married Shiv.
And he doesn't want to lose it.
And now he doesn't want to lose it.
Yeah.
It's that episode to me is just so dense with like, wow, this is this giant metaphor of how they rigged this whole hunting system. And they can't even hunt like real people. They're fake hunters. They're fake at everything. And they just pay it off and write it off in a check.
Exactly.
I don't know. That episode to me is incredible.
Yeah. And one other big plot point that we haven't addressed about season 2 before we go, the whole Disney Fox acquisition attempt, right? Like how they're trying to buy the Pierce organization and or the Logan family's trying to in order to save themselves from
to make themselves too big to fail.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. I thought the way that unfolded was really actually kind of dope. And obviously, like in real life, an acquisition like that did go through with Disney and Fox. But in this show, it really shows how something so personal could come in between something like that happening, right? Like how the opinion of, I forget the main lady's
Rhea?
Not Rhea, but Rhea's working undercover, but for the main lady of the Pierce family.
Mama Pierce.
Yeah. How her just little feelings about Logan could stop the whole acquisition because that's just how. And listen, Logan does show himself to be a piece of dong, like especially as that scandal's breaking out. So I think that's a really interesting, big real world. It kind of takes a lot of things straight from the headlines. That I think is really interesting.
Absolutely. And we'll keep getting into it after the break. We just have to cut a break.
Yeah, we got a break for sure.
Gotta get it. All right, guys, make sure you stick around because we're gonna keep talking about Succession after the break.
I'm just a puppet here. If you want to place blame, then look to the puppeteer. Family, fortune, envy, jealousy, privilege, passed on, legacy.
It is burning my eyes, but I cannot look away.
L to the OG. Dude be the OG. A-N he playing like a pro. C. L to the OG. Dude be the OG. A-N he playing like a pro. Make some noise. A1 radio.
What is up, guys? We're back talking about Succession. Before we finish up season 2, I kind of want to talk about something interesting that Succession did this year, and that is how these corporate mega media conglomerates deal with scandal and deal with real life issues that have happened. Obviously, I believe it was 2 years ago now. I can't believe it's 2 years. I believe 2 years for the Me Too movement really taking off. The Weinstein thing that came about. That was a big movement that happened within Hollywood and in the corporate world as well that really stood up against these big, CEOs who get away with so many shadiness, man. And this company, I'm sorry, not this company, this show really wants to dive into kind of how these companies deal with it and how it's really all this giant.
And how they send Shiv in to talk to the victim about
it's all a PR game. And it's done in a sense of like admitting no wrongdoing. Or if you do, it's all a lie anyways. You're just showboating. It's theater. I think there's even a line where they say it's theater. This is just a show. They want you to put on this face and this act so that you can get away with it and keep making more money and make the shareholders happy. That's all it's about. And it's crazy how this entire scandal investigation that's going on with the cruise line into Waystar and how they're dealing with it in this kind of way, in this attitude of these are all lies, whatever, even though they literally have the evidence in front of them and they know it's not a lie. And they watch 60 Minutes like they're watching
sports,
like
a Lakers game,
booing the other team.
Right.
When the guy is telling the truth, everything he says is absolutely true. And you did have a freaking pedophile working for you, and you did.
You did
nothing.
call him. You did call him molester.
You called him molester.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but at the same time, it's like this attitude of like, oh my God, dude, it's true. It's absolutely true.
Exactly.
And how these media corporations do not care, and PR is just a front in order for them to, like I said, make their shareholders happy and keep making more money.
Yeah, keep
I
them
don't know.
rich.
To me, the way they did the scandal thing to me was absolutely amazing. And I told you beforehand, I was watching Patriot Act by Hassan Minhaj. And he mentioned how this is real. Like there actually is this kind of weird controversy between cruise lines and mysterious deaths and mysterious disappearances and all this kind of attitude of like there's some shady shit going on in these cruise ships and people get away with it because when you're on international sea, your law only applies to the law of like I think the nearest island or something like that, some weird law, or they base themselves out of these tiny islands where their laws are so lax that they can get away with murder.
Everything,
even murder.
And at the very least, tax evasion.
Oh, tax evasion for sure.
And that's what, you know.
I mean, shell companies.
We talked about the laundromat recently, and that's honestly what a lot of that movie's about.
Not just that,
how
but
the shell companies in the fact that like shell companies as a reflection of like the actual crime you could get away with too. You know what I mean? Like in the show, people literally get away with murder. In the show, people are extreme drug. I mean, Kendall's probably the biggest drug addict, I think, of any HBO show they probably put. Maybe not every HBO show, but he does all kinds of shit. But he can afford to. He can afford to steal. He literally gets caught stealing vape pens or whatever. He can afford it, but he just does it just for the thrill of it or whatever, and they have to cover that up. And that's just ultimately the kind of power that wealth can buy.
Yes.
You can buy yourself out of crimes. You can buy yourself out of the consequences that everyday people have to face on a daily basis.
It's insane. And the fact that they're busting people for, having some weed.
Yeah, half a gram of marijuana, and then you go to jail for 3 years. Meanwhile, these corporate. Literally, did you hear about Lori Loughlin? I think it was. She got 10 days in jail for the college admission scandal.
No way.
10 days, yeah. It's crazy. But honestly, I think this show shows a little bit of it, but I think honestly a lot of rich people get away with horrible stuff that we just don't know about. And
absolutely.
And I don't know. I think the show does a great job of highlighting like the ill corruptiveness of what the society deals with.
In the way they celebrate each other and the way they surround themselves with people who are yes men and the way they surround themselves with people who are just so afraid of them that they know that they live inside this giant bubble of gratitude and almost worship. They almost live inside this church where the God is them and they are God and they are constantly worshipped by their employees because their employees are so afraid of them and they're forced to worship them. That scene where Logan Roy gets his plaque and Kendall gets up there and does a rap. Obviously it's a funny scene, but at the same time you realize like he has all this blood on his hands, like his brother says. Whether it be through climate change, whether it be through loss of job, whether it be through changing policy for the worse and making America a worse off country than it was before. And yet he has this giant birthday party where everyone says he's the greatest person in the world and he's worshipped like a god.
Right.
Because that's what you surround yourself with.
And you know what? And people will go, and even if you don't believe in it necessarily the politics or what this guy believes in, you're still going to follow behind him because guess what? He has the money. You're always going to follow the money. And even I think it goes to show how nobody told Kendall how terrible his raps are just because he's the son of the ultra billionaire.
Not just that, but the fact that that is a great point. But also the fact that I still always go back to this, Arbiter, and you probably have a little bit more to me more to say to it than I do. But the idea of hip hop. And how hip-hop has transcended so many barriers and borders, and how the same people who make policy that bust so many African-American communities are like, I love rap. I love rap. I'm a rapper. And they're donated to these politicians who put these people in jail. And put all these, you know what I'm saying? Like it's this weird contradiction of like, I love rap is cool and rap and I'm cool rapping.
Literally,
how hip-hop has transcended culture so much that now it's reached the giant billionaires, rich right-wingers who are just so who are the opposite of what these people are even rapping about in their songs, about how hip hop artists are fighting against that.
Right, because you know what it is. Hip hop paints
It's the irony.
Hip hop paints a reality that these rich people can't experience themselves.
Yeah.
They paint a reality of poverty. They paint the depiction of the struggle and building yourself up from bottom to the top. What hip hop really is a true representation of the American dream. Somebody could come from nothing and become something because they're great lyrically and they can make music.
Yeah, and
whereas
the fact that they're able to use that, the irony that these are the same people who are pushing those people down.
Right, and pushing down those communities.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Hillary Clinton campaigning next to Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yeah.
And then we see dumbass Kanye West campaigning right next to Trump. But then you see brothers like, Killer Mike and Cardi B with Bernie Sanders. So everybody kind of has their political alignments. And, I'm sure you could talk to Bernie Sanders. He's never heard a Killer Mike song. He's never heard a Cardi B song, whatever. But I think it goes to show the kind of people who these rap artists are supporting to some extent. Because I do think, Cardi B, a lot of people don't like her. I get it. She drugged men. She robbed them. But she is rapping about what she really is. Like, she really did come from nothing to something. So the fact that she could actually see through the gaze of shit and be behind somebody like Bernie, and same thing with Killer Mike. Killer Mike's his family are African-American historians, and they taught him a lot of that stuff. So it's a lot of education there.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, going back to Succession, I think that the use of the hip-hop beats is quite apparent in the opening theme. I think it goes to show that how hip-hop also represents the glamorization of wealth, right? The kind of, you associate those bright, like hip hop drums, the doom doom with the hi hats and everything. It feels rich. It feels luxurious, and we even see how in the show there's even a scene. I think it was either in season 1 or season 2 where Kendall and his boy are getting ready to meet with
that's right, season 1
with the rapper character, and they're like, yo, just get me the guy who, it's like, oh yeah, we have a separate room set up over here. We have some cold shrimp for you. And he's like, you know what? Tell him that I'm the guy whose father owns the label or some shit like that. Like, who or owns the label who's employing him. And it just goes to show, like, no matter how much they're going to be fans of the music, or no matter how much, like, or in general, a more general conversation, how much white people aren't going to experience the hip-hop experience, they're still going to mistreat it and throw it away. Yeah. Because to them, it's just music. Yes. Where for a lot of people, it's the actual lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And it shows all throughout the show.
All right.
And it is that irony that is being placed on the show, and how culture can transcend that. And it's still, yet they don't care, and they will never care.
Right.
Yeah, man, this show's absolutely fascinating. Season 2 hit it on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Before we move on, because you have a little segment that you wanted to do, I kind of want to do, everything has been kind of bitter and dark throughout this episode with good reason. I kind of want us to name like a funny moment from this season, because as dark as this show is, it's so funny.
Right.
And there's so many moments that make you laugh.
Right. Well,
because of how insane and ridiculous it is.
You know what's funny?
Whether it's a line or a moment, like, it's so many good moments, especially this season.
I think this show has more comedic moments than it does like actual dramatic moments.
I agree.
Like the dialogue.
Yeah.
The dialogue itself
funny.
deserves an Oscar. I mean,
so
or the
funny.
Emmy. I think it won an Emmy.
It did win an Emmy
for writing.
Yeah, for writing.
But literally, I mean, the dialogue's so snappy. It's literally just, they say the most over the top, absurd things to just to get across the simplest point. Yeah. Like, I think at one point Kendall tells him or tells the Asian dude, like, you're gonna have so much money, I'm gonna shove a silver dildo up your ass and you're gonna be spitting out gold links or something like that, like some stupid shit. Yeah. And that's just what stupid stuff. Man, I was trying not to curse this whole podcast.
Oh, I cursed a lot already. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. But that access of wealth, like to the fact that you find different ways to get creative with the slang that you're kind of throwing around. So I don't know, a lot of dialogue is funny to me. I think to me probably the hardest moment I laughed was when Tom when Greg had told Tom he was thinking about leaving the company, and Tom literally just starts throwing water bottles at him. I laughed so hard at that. That was so funny.
I got to do the same episode where Tom is talking to Shiv on the phone.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, where are you? We're in the safe room. And she's like, no, we're in the safe room. And he's like, wait, what? What? There's another safe room? I lost my shit. That, and then one of my favorite lines of the season is when Roman goes undercover as a mascot in the theme park. And he takes a picture with the couple, and he's wearing a turkey costume. And he's like, yeah, have fun, guys. Gobble, gobble, go fuck yourself. I lost it. Or when Tom, another one of my favorite lines, is when Logan is talking to Tom in this weird moment in a party, and he's like, yeah, he's over here. That one guy is over there, and I think he has syphilis. And Tom is like, oh man, you don't really hear about syphilis. It's kind of like the MySpace of STDs. And I was like, yo.
That was good. That was funny too. That's funny too.
Those lines are so funny, man. And I mean, I believe Greg had like a ton of them this year too.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm forgetting a ton, but these are all just so many funny moments that happen throughout each episode, and obviously a lot of it is from Roman and Tom, because to me those guys are the funniest ones.
Right.
But yeah, man, this show has so many hysterical moments.
Yeah.
Before we leave, you wanted to talk a little bit about HBO as a whole, or favorite TV?
Yeah. I just wanted to talk. HBO has put out a lot of quality content this year. I feel like Euphoria has been one of my favorite shows of the year.
You know what's funny, man?
What's that?
Oh my God. I'm making a list right now of shows I have to go back and give it another chance.
Yeah.
Euphoria is on the top of that list.
Yeah, because you were shitting on it.
I was. I'm going to give it another shot.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Euphoria another shot. I'm going to give Righteous Gemstones, speaking of HBO shows.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that a shot.
I'm going to watch one episode of that.
I want to give that another shot. Just I'm very, 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 obviously this is all foreign to me, big money and big corporations.
Right.
When it comes to churches,
religion,
I'm very familiar. I used to work in a church, so I'm very. That's why it's kind of hard for me to watch that, because I'm very close to it. But I'm gonna give that another shot. Those are 2 HBO shows that I want to give another shot. Give me some other ones.
Yeah, if you go to Euphoria, get to episode 4. Did you watch episode 4? That to me, that's when I fell in love with the show. And maybe
I got through the pilot and I was like, this ain't for me.
No, episode 4. If
the pilot to me, it was just like, oh my God, we get it. Yeah. Drugs and sex and boobs, and I'm 15, but I want to get naked. Like, bro.
I mean, that's real life, but
I know, but it was like it was too like fetish. Like, just because it's real life doesn't mean I want to see it.
Yeah, but get to episode 4, because episode 4 is the one. To me, it felt like, one of my favorite movies is Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia. To me, it felt like a 1-hour version of that movie. Just from the camera movements to the music, everything was brilliant in that. But shout outs to Euphoria. I really want to talk about our favorite TV shows on HBO right now, so I can say a salute to Ballers. Ballers, one of my favorite shows on television.
Is Ballers good?
Ballers is great. Ballers, maybe some people might have, some standards when it comes to writing or acting or whatever. But listen, to me, if you're asking me, my personal opinion, it's just as good as Entourage was.
Never saw Entourage.
And I like Entourage a lot. But I think Entourage gets a lot more coverage and a lot more attention because it's about entertainment industry. Whereas Ballers is a lot about football, and it doesn't get the same kind of attention that. And again, Entourage, I think most people look back at Entourage now and say, that's not a great show. Like, what are you talking about, Robert? That's not a great show. But I think what it represented at the time was the it just represented the snazzy, the cool guys walking around town doing their thing. But I think with this show, with Ballers, is so different. Of course, it has The Rock at the centerpiece of it, but it's a very pro-athlete, pro-NFL, pro-NFL athletes, pro players type of show. Is very much The Rock. The Rock is playing a character named Spencer Strassmore, who is a financial advisor to a lot of NFL players. And throughout the show, you kind of see him tugging back and forth with his morality. A lot of times the show deals with issues of like gentrification, of like, for example, one season in general is about how they're moving the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas. And then kind of in the fictional show, Spencer's kind of putting that together.
Interesting.
But he has to deal with the moral conflict of that too.
Sure.
The most recent season is about Spencer trying to own an NFL team and his conflicts in doing that, and him being one of the only black owners, and him actually being, because he's a former player. The Rock is The Rock in real life is a former player.
Sure.
But then in the show, he's a former player who becomes a financial advisor. But he's trying to own an NFL team, and he's kind of fighting the good fight for the players. But all the establishment's trying to go against him, and it's a very powerful. I mean, listen, it's covered in like silliness and like showing beautiful women and boats and houses and all this stuff. But at the heart of it, it is a show about athletes. It is a show that promotes excellence amongst athletes and the care that athletes deserve to have. So I'm very big on that show. Salute to Ballers for 5 good seasons. The finale made me cry.
Cool,
good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of those things where I'm obsessed with like NBA,
right?
Like free agency and agencies and ownership and all that kind of stuff that's happening in the NBA, which is why like the NBA China thing, I've been dying to be on a podcast about, because I actually have a lot of I've been reading up a lot on China, and we were talking about it beforehand when we were talking to Wendy.
Right.
But I've been reading up a lot about the corporate idealism of China and the censorship of China and how this crazy thing is happening. And at the same time, I happen to be one of the biggest NBA fans, and I love the NBA and I live for it, off season or on season, like no matter what. And I would love to see like a Ballers version of NBA. If they ever bring it back, do like a reboot, like a reboot of like NBA, and I would be in.
LeBron could do that.
And you
you should do something like that.
You should do it, and it should be called. It should keep the name
Ballers. I like Ballers. Ballers is a great name.
But what I'm saying is like the name could stay the same.
Yeah,
and it's like a reboot
same kind of idea for sure. And
that'd be cool.
And there's a lot of obviously real NFL stars who kind of guest star in it. A lot of real rappers. Quavo was in the finale, and a lot of people just show up throughout the series. So it is very much like Entourage in its style, but unlike Entourage too, Entourage is very misogynistic. Is very like, and this show, granted,
is as well.
is to some extent. I mean,
I was gonna say you can't say it's not.
I mean, I've
seen 2 scenes, and I'm like, oh,
it is to some extent, but towards the end of the series, it starts to get a little more toned down. You see, there are men with wives in this show. There are men who settle down, and I think what's really important, especially about the last season, that it really deals with careers after the NFL and like what people do after their retirement. One character becomes like a radio broadcaster, and one character goes into esports, and it's just a really beautiful way of embracing the evolution of football and the evolution of athleticism and what it means to be an independent player in this market. And I also think it's also nice to have a substitute for following the NFL instead of watching the real NFL, because I've been watching the NFL for the past 4 years or so.
Sure.
So this has been kind of my surrogate of like having my football appreciation itched a little bit. So
cool.
Great show, man.
Awesome, man. Well, if we're talking HBO shows or shows in general, I gotta do it, and I know it has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Best show I've seen this year by far, Attack on Titan.
Attack
on Titan season 3 reached a different level. Besides that, Barry,
absolutely.
Man.
Yeah.
Speaking of HBO, Barry season 2 was so good.
That was amazing.
I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I wasn't laughing in certain scenes in Barry.
Yeah.
In certain episodes, because obviously everyone's favorite episode is the one with the little girl.
Yeah.
But I love the episode where the boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, Sally's ex-boyfriend, comes back right when they're talking about him.
Right,
and there's like this weird, dark, kind of ironic, hysterical way, because the show is, what's great about Barry is it blends the humor of darkness, if that makes sense, like, and how drama and humor kind of mesh, and how you could be like talking about this abusive boyfriend, and she's like, oh, he's this horrible man, and he beat me up, and he's like, hi Sally, and he's right there,
right,
like it's awful. But at the same time, it's funny because it's like the irony of like this crazy abusive boyfriend that she happens to be talking about, and all of a sudden you hear "Hi, Sally," and he turns around and he's right there. Like that's funny as hell to me.
Yeah.
And it's that mesh of like how darkness and comedy can meet, and that's why I think Barry's like a perfect show this year.
Yeah,
literally perfect,
absolutely.
amazing.
And that just goes to show the brilliance of Bill Hader. He's been having the standout year.
Oh my God, dude! Bill Hader killed me in it too.
Yeah.
He killed me in Barry. he killed me in every interview he was in. Like
Yeah,
Bill Hader
yeah,
is just
yeah,
reaching a
yeah,
different
yeah,
level
yeah.
of comedy, and he's just so freaking funny. Last shout out, if we're talking HBO, Chernobyl. Chernobyl to
for
me is one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen because it actually happened. And the way they break it down as far as how it's so realistic, it's only 5 episodes long, and it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen on TV. And it won the Emmy for Best Miniseries.
Best miniseries. It beat your favorite.
My favorite thing I've seen this year, besides Attack on Titan, is When They See Us. But it was close for me between Chernobyl and When They See Us, if I'm being honest, man.
That's nice. That's
when
nice,
they
man.
Chernobyl, I know you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
But
No,
it's
so
I'm
far
telling you,
from
man, it's pitch like when they say dark and black, it's pitch black.
Pitch black.
I'm talking pure, make you want to throw up and die. And
Wow.
Like it's so dark where they're just like darkness on top of darkness on top of darkness.
Right.
And When They See Us is dark, but at least it has that light ending.
Yeah.
Where you feel that
Optimistic
hope,
ending.
Optimistic
Yeah.
ending. And Chernobyl is just pure, like, oh my God, what is life and what is society?
How do we get to this point? Type
Exactly.
Shit, huh? Damn.
Alrighty, guys, that is our conversation on Succession, and I guess on HBO shows in general.
Yeah,
too.
we got a good segment. Good clip we could cut out. You know.
But either way, guys, let us know what you think of this season of Succession. Is it as good as everyone is saying? Is this your favorite show that came out this year?
Yeah.
Favorite scene, favorite line, favorite moment, favorite Roy member?
Yeah. Who's your favorite Roy?
I told you, he's not a real Roy, but
Yeah.
by proxy, Tom. Tom is my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, he's always been ever since episode 1, where he's the biggest asshole ever to
Yeah,
Greg.
yeah,
he was
yeah.
he was like, what are you doing, man? Why are you talking like that? Why are you being such a bitch? And I was like, man, this
Right.
guy sucks.
Right.
I hate Tom. And then I was like, man, I love Tom. I love Tom. Tom's my favorite. How about you, man? Even though Tom is also despicable and covered up a bunch of evidence and all this stuff. To clarify, for everyone who's like, whoa, I thought you said everyone.
Pick your side.
Everyone sucks. And I'm like, yeah, Tom still sucks, but he happens to be my favorite.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite?
I've always loved Shiv, but I mean, just the end of it.
This season, she's like awful.
But you know what? I'm not gonna lie, man. Kendall, I've always been rooting for Kendall, man. I'm
Okay.
always rooting for Kendall to
Okay.
do well. So I know he's the main character, so that's not even a fair answer.
In a way, he's not, but yeah, he is.
Yeah. But I hopefully I gotta get well, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. That is our conversation on Succession. Make sure you check us out. I'm at Squad Leader Ace.
I'm at Director RB3.
And you can watch our stuff on the First Cut YouTube channel, so be sure and check that out. You can comment on that and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
For the Mean Enough podcast, I'm Ace.
This is RB3.
We are peacing out. Peace out, guys.